Don't give a price until you understand the impact of the solution on the customer.
Coffee's for closers only.
So we've established my proposal is sound in principle. Now we're just haggling over price.
Let's see how much we're going for on eBay.
I mean, it's the same as Dunkin' Donuts. Costs 15 times the price.
Welcome to Impact Pricing, the podcast where we discuss pricing, value, and the persuasive relationship between them. I'm Mark Stiving. Today our guest is Mark Cox, and here are 3 things you want to know about Mark before we start. He has been in sales and sales leadership for the first 20 plus years of his career. 8 years ago, he launched the company In the Funnel, a sales coaching consultancy, and I could probably use his help badly. And he is a hockey goalie, but he still has all of his teeth. At least I think they're real. Welcome, Mark.
I'm not actually going to answer that third question, Mark. Let's have, you're going to have to make the call as to whether these are my teeth or not. But thanks so much for having me on the podcast.
Hey, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. So instead of asking the normal first question, how did you get into pricing? Let me tee it up with, how important do you think pricing is when we work with salespeople?
Oh, well, I think it's massive. And I'll take ownership for a good portion of this, Mark. I think that salespeople, I think too many of them today actually try and sell on price. Nobody buys on price. They, as you aptly point out with your great podcast, they buy on value. And I think the world that I live in these days, we're trying to focus on coaching salespeople to get more collaborative when they're working with buyers, to really understand the economics impact of the value and the services that they provide. But I think they default to price, and when they do that, they get commoditized and squeezed. So I think it's massive. And of course, 10% increase in terms of price is all EBITDA. It goes right to the bottom line. So it's so critically important for businesses today to stay profitable, be able to invest in the future. So I think it's a very important topic. And I think there's a lot of education for us in the professional selling world about this topic.
Great. Okay, so now here's the biggest softball of all. Tell us about In the Funnel and how you think about the sales process. And if you could at all compare or contrast it to some of the other sales processes that we see or may know of.
Oh, that's great. Well, you know what? I'll simplify it this way, Mark. There's got to be a common sense revolution in professional sales. So by all meaningful metrics out there today, the sales stack has increased exponentially. There's 500 technology platforms to help us sell better. Yay. The reality of it is our productivity as professional salespeople is dropping. So we're getting worse. Fewer of us are actually hitting quota, more of us are churning jobs, but most alarmingly, recent reports are saying the buyers are seeing less and less value from the salespeople that they're interacting with. So I think actually there's really this crisis in professional sales. And where we think about it is trying to get to this point where you sell the way you'd actually want to buy. So let's think about, we run training workshops and this kind of stuff, Mark. And a lot of times who's in professional sales? 50 hands go up. Who likes dealing with professional salespeople? 48 hands go down. And so I think there's this common sense revolution that says, let's get a little away from trying to persuade and cajole and trick and do all of these crazy things. Why don't we just actually help buyers buy? Help them make great decisions, help them get to a better future. And the more they believe we're sincere and authentic in our desire to do that, the better off we're going to do. By the way, that means you're not going to win every deal, or somebody else might be a better alternative for them. That's okay. You'll like what you do more if you go at it with that approach rather than thinking, boy, I've got to be some false version, veneer version, speaking of my broken teeth, veneer version of a salesperson to trick somebody into doing something. Nobody wants to get persuaded to do anything.
Yeah, everything you just said resonates immensely with me.
Oh, wow.
I love the idea that says my job as a salesperson is to help my customer figure out what problems they have and how they're going to go solve those problems. Now, from my perspective as a pricing person or as a value person, I'll put it that way, I think the first step or one of the key steps as a salesperson is helping a customer understand how much value is really there.
Yeah.
I think customers have problems, but they don't know our product that well. So there's no way they know how much value they get if they use our product.
Right.
Our salespeople, we know our product really well, but we don't know that customer's situation. So there's no way we know how much value that customer is going to get. And so if the two of them work together, having what we like to call a value conversation, then we can actually figure out, is there value in this for you or not? Should you proceed with the purchase or the acquisition? And by the way, if it's someone even halfway low in the organization, now we've given them the tools that they can use to sell up in that organization, up the hierarchy. So I dearly loved what you said.
Oh, thanks, Mark. Well, right back at you, by the way, when you start to think of, you said somebody lower in the organization, the higher up in the organization that we go, the more those people make decisions based on Excel. And by that, I mean, they're going to look at a business case. What's my investment? What's my return? All of us are the same, right? We just have these three desired outcomes as business leaders or executives. Pretty simple. I want to increase revenue. I want to reduce cost, or I want to reduce risk. At the highest level, those tend to be the three biggest triggers of value. And by the way, I think this is widespread in terms of an issue. We work with loads of companies, loads of sales leaders. I think we end up defaulting after being in business too long to, hey, I'm just going to get the product in front of them. I'm going to pitch it somebody. I'm going to get them to a demo. I mean, the number of times we push somebody towards a demo where we have no idea of the desired outcome they actually want. People don't buy software. They actually buy what it does for them. The one thing I will kind of call out that I'd love to see a little more of today in professional sales, and we're trying to help, it's a big job though, is we do really need to understand that customer we're reaching out to. So, whether we sell to a technology company, a law firm, a manufacturing business, and by the way, I find people who sell in traditional industries like manufacturing, they're really good at this. They understand the whole life cycle of the client they're speaking to. So when they're trying to sell somebody, I'll pick something, patio doors, into a third-party, window fabricator who sells to large condominiums. They actually understand those businesses very well that they're selling to, and how their product or service fits in the whole life cycle of how that business makes money and who that business is competing with and the challenges and trends in the industry that they're facing. The more we know those things, we can actually work with a buyer. So we actually have a point of view as to how we can get them to that better future, because they may not know, as you aptly point out, they may not know what our product and service can do, but we need to be able to have this point of view to say, listen, we think if you're like most clients, you're trying to do A, B, and C, we've got something that might help get you, but does A, B, or C resonate? Are these things you're trying to do for 2022?
Yes, I used to work for a company called Pragmatic Institute, Pragmatic Marketing, and they defined a market segment as companies or individuals with a common set of problems. And I just fell in love with that definition because in a lot of ways it describes what you just said to me. And that is, if I'm a salesperson and I expect to have business acumen so that I can help my buyers figure out what's the value of my product, it makes so much more sense to say, well, look, I'm going to sell to people who have this type of problem. And now I can understand the business acumen and go work with them and help them figure out the value of our products. So I think that was spot on.
Well, thanks, Mark. When you think of it, by the way, I really need to know that. We call that the ideal customer profile. But once I understand kind of my value proposition for my solution or offering, and I've created my product market focus, I need that ideal customer profile, because those are the people that have the highest chance of, first of all, engaging and then helping. If they don't have the problems we solve for, they're not going to buy your solution. Or, by the way, and this is what happens when, I pitched it to them and so went silent. They're now returning my call. There was no value conversation. There was no compelling reason to move forward. So this is why if we identify this ideal customer profile, really, what are they going through and what are they trying to do? And so instead of selling my product when I'm talking to a client or prospect, the first couple of conversations are just, let me understand you and your business and your environment, what you're trying to achieve, what's getting in your way today. But you have to do exactly what you just said. If I don't have business acumen and knowledge and a point of view and actually value in the conversation, they're never going to open up to me. They don't want to talk to a talking brochure.
That's exactly right. We have to listen to them and understand the problems. I get the feeling, in fact, in my 5 or so years of failed selling, I'm absolutely positive that I had this problem, and that is that I would simply show up and throw up, right? I knew my product so well, I'm going to tell you about my product. And my hope is that you hear these features and you say, oh, that one resonates with me. Right? But that never happens.
Right.
My job as a salesperson, now that I'm much older and wiser, my job as a salesperson has to be to first understand your problems. Yeah. And then I can talk about my product to say, oh, here's how we might be able to help solve your problems. So
exactly right. It's exactly right. And by the way, when you say it that way, Mark, it doesn't sound like rocket science, does it?
It doesn't.
You're gonna go, okay. And you've got examples in your life. You're a business leader. You've had companies sell to you really well. But I'll be honest with you, you'd be shocked to realize with the number, 1 in 2 kids graduating college or university right now, they will end up in professional sales in their career, according to Harvard, 1 in 2. So we're throwing gazillions of people into professional sales. They're not getting the coaching and the training required to be effective. Although people spend a lot of money on training, it's just not resonating. And everybody's getting pitched at, by the way, digitally. They're getting just pounded digitally. And then when we get somebody on the phone, it's the lowest experienced person within that sales organization, an SDR, BDR, sales development rep, and they're scared to death and they're pitching a product. And so, the whole sort of system right now in professional sales is a little bit broken. And that's where we're coming at it with just saying, let's just have this common sense revolution here. Let's take another look at this and start to sell the way somebody actually wants to buy and start to sell the way you want to buy. And also go at this whole thing so you can be proud of what you do for a living.
Yeah. And I think it needs to be genuine. I think that's part of the issue is that sometimes a salesperson says, I'm going to do consultative selling, and they come in with their list of questions and I feel like they're trying to trick me into buying their product. Oh, if I get him to say this, then he has no choice, he has to buy. And what we really want is someone to work with us to try to figure out what is the real problem and what are the best solutions. But that's hard, right? It's hard for me to trust a salesperson. So it's hard for a salesperson to get over that lack of trust when they go talk to their customers.
Yeah, there's a real wall that goes up when you're dealing with a salesperson. And, funny aside, I'm kind of a nerd in terms of the history of selling and processes and methodologies. Great guy, Philip Squire wrote a great book. He's trying to get sales recognized as a profession in the UK. But he wrote a great book, and I'll forget the dates, but back in the 1800s, the first article written about sales wasn't how to sell. It was a warning. It was an article warning you against traveling salespeople who were of low moral fiber. So, so we've been kind of Gil from The Simpsons has been the sort of image of the professional salesperson for way too long. So we got some ground to cover. I just think by the way, it's just so easy to stand out given that, because everybody's pitching, everybody's trying to cajole. I think you have to get to this point. First, you have to believe what I'm trying to do is actually help somebody, get to this better place, this better future. I have kind of a process for getting there. I got to earn the right for them to share thoughts and information with me. And maybe every time I interact with them, let me figure out how I add some value, even if there's no immediate expectation of commerce. You know,
Yeah. So what's the trick? Right. When I think about the way I run my business today,
mhm,
I'm lucky in that I never do outreach. Someone reaches out to me first, and my sales process is really simple. I spend a half hour on the phone coaching you and helping you figure out how to solve your problems. And then you realize I know way more than a half hour's worth of work, and you're like, I need more of that. Okay, got it. But it's all helpful. It's not, I need to convince you to hire me to spend money or something like that. I couldn't sell if I had to do outreach and convince you you need to hire a pricing person or a pricing
mhm.
expert. So let's pretend that I wanted to do that. How do I overcome the, oh my God, he's reaching out to me fear?
Mhm. Well, again, he's reaching out to me value, right? So we always go at this thing. And so value, not in terms of the financial exchange, value in terms of the communication. And
Mhm.
so clearly, given your experience, Mark, you have this point of view that says, hey, if we're working with a mid-sized company that's, I'll pick a number, 10 million in revenue, software as a service, if they actually increase their price by 10%, their profitability goes up by 40%. And you probably have in your back pocket 3 or 4 good stories or examples of that. And so one of the ways you might be reaching out is not about you, but just reaching out and saying, listen, let's say you're calling me Mark. It's Mark reaching out. I'll tell you why. We've worked with a lot of companies exactly like in the funnel. And we found that by slightly managing their pricing strategy, we can increase their profitability by 30 to 40% over a 12-month period of time. Given we're exiting these turbulent times, I wanted to reach out to you to get a 20-minute conversation to share a little bit about how we're doing that. And so that's it. I didn't talk, I'm just saying, hey, there's a better future out there. I've done it for somebody else. There may be a reason for my reach out. And I might have to be a little bit professionally persistent to have that conversation. But to me, I think what people do today is they're going to capture that message and go, am I interested in that kind of desired outcome? And is the person who reached out to me credible in any way? And so that's when it's not an inbound lead, when we're reaching out.
Right.
And companies do this in volume, and there's some digital ways that can absolutely help. We can't default to digital, but they can be part of the process. But I think we need this point of view. And so instead of trying to sell sales training, we sell revenue growth. What it would mean to you if you could get, 3 of your largest customers, 3 more customers like your largest customers today? What would be the 3-year impact on you and your business? It starts to become a pretty big number for most companies. So that might just trigger the conversation.
Yeah. So what I like about what you said is it sounds more genuine than most of the emails that I get from sales organizations, probably all the emails I get from sales organizations. And so first off, kudos in that you could make what I would picture as an email sound more genuine,
Thanks.
more useful. So I'm very thankful I don't have to reach out though, because that just makes me uncomfortable. I don't know why, and maybe that's why I was not a very good salesperson.
No, you know what? I think you're human. I don't think there's too many people, Mark, who love doing outbound demand generation. At least there's not too many people that we want to have, we want to be hanging out watching the hockey game with over a beer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think it's pretty natural, and there's, lots of stuff written about fear. I played hockey, and I'm not a big guy. Like, I'm 6 foot tall and 160 pounds soaking wet, but I was a goalie. I'm in a reasonably safe position. But I will tell you that during a game, at certain levels that I played, there's some other people on the other team that are reasonably dangerous. And so when they're on the ice, no matter what I was doing, I'm keeping my eye on them. So I got to know where they are, no matter what's going on. And that's just because, the fear center of our brain is huge. That's how we survived as, a species. The brave ones got eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. It was those who were paranoid that actually survived, saved with the community. So it's pretty reasonable to feel that way when we're reaching out. A little bit of vulnerability. Nobody likes rejection. But again, I think you can kind of work through it if you go, I know these 6 examples where it really helped companies. I'm going to reach out to investigate whether they've got the challenge we solve for. And if I do get somebody live and I have this live conversation, I'm going to make sure in my back pocket, I do 2 or 3 things, which exactly what you said you did. You give value. Now I start to feel good about what I'm doing. The people who feel terrible only know their product. So when they get somebody on the phone, they just start pitching. And eventually they don't last. But it becomes a pretty short-term tour of duty in sales when you do that, because it just becomes too unpleasant. So it's very natural to feel that fear. Everybody does.
Okay, I am so impressed with salespeople who do the job well, because when I think through me trying to sell, even what I do, it's hard. There's no doubt about it. So huge kudos to you and your team.
Hey, listen, huge kudos to the entire entrepreneurial community out there and people in all businesses. It is hard. So I know when we're doing a little podcast here and we talk about a little quick role play, oh, it sounds so easy. But this is a really tough thing to do. It's a performance art. It is like a professional sport. You got to be good in the moment. And so, it takes a lot of those things a lot of us don't do professionally, Mark. It takes a little bit of rehearsal. It takes preparation. It takes some strategy and work. And then you see in professional sales, like the people who are good at this and the people you work with today that are very collaborative, truly collaborative. I loved how you brought up consultative selling. It just feels like a different trap for the buyer, right? And you feel that way. You feel like you're being persuaded. Nobody wants to get persuaded. They don't. So there's got to be this way, a different way of having this conversation where it's always about them. It's about them. It's about them. And on the clients that you've earned and everybody listening to this, the companies they've earned, that's where the company really saw you as being collaborative and somebody who's more interested in helping them as a client than you are putting money in your back pocket. We've got to make sure we brush our teeth so we don't have commission breath. Okay? As soon as somebody thinks that we're in it for us, a wall goes up.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I think the reason I don't like the outreach isn't the rejection, because it doesn't bother me if people reject me. It's I don't want to be bothering people.
Yeah.
Because I get bothered so much with stuff. It's like, no, I don't want to be that person. Right.
I can imagine, right? You're the CEO. So you're getting pounded. I totally get that too. And that's why one of the things we like to think about is, it sounds like it's a script, but how do you capture that value proposition message in about 20 seconds? Because as soon as you as a CEO kind of pick up that phone and you realize I'm a salesperson, I've got about 20 seconds to capture some attention and interest, or you're either putting up a wall or you're hanging up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So quick little story, not really related to our conversation. You said I was the CEO. I am, but I originally called myself the CEO. And do you know, you get multiple LinkedIn messages daily when you're the CEO.
Yeah.
So I changed my title to Chief Pricing Educator, and the number went down dramatically.
Yeah, great. But see what people do to avoid professional salespeople today, and the whole engine. So isn't that funny? And that'll do it too, right? So now you've come off a whole bunch of lists.
Yes, which is very helpful for me. Very helpful. Mark, it's really been fun, but I'm still going to ask the standard last question.
Sure.
Put you on the spot. What's one piece of pricing advice you would give our listeners that you think could have a big impact on their business?
Oh, fantastic. Don't give a price until you understand the impact of the solution on the customer. And they understand it.
Nice. So
So
essentially what you're saying is,
possible.
essentially what you're saying is, let's make sure that we've communicated value to our customers before they understand how much they have to pay, or before we tell them how much they have to pay.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So just for kicks, I want to push back on that a little bit, just because I find these fun.
Yeah, please.
If I walk into a retail outlet, there's a pair of Levi's and it has the price on it, and nobody's told me the value.
Mhm.
Why is that okay?
Well, number one, I don't think most of us are not used to negotiating in a retail outlet. And it's a commoditized product, completely commoditized product in most instances. And it isn't, it isn't what I would call a solution sell. So, the person who's selling me those Levi's doesn't often start with, what are the pants have you got in your wardrobe?
What problem are you trying to solve?
Now, I will say, by the way, I've got a guy, who kind of helps me with, boy, do I ever need help with, clothes and business attires. And I've bought from him for 15, 20 years because it's all he does. He knows what's in my wardrobe. So he comes in, and when I go and grab the red jacket that looks cool and put it on, he goes, "You're never going to wear that. It's going to look good in your closet and it feels good today, but you never wear it." And I go, "Why would I wear it?" And he'll say, "Because everybody knows it's a red jacket. Even if you wear it twice a month, it looks like you're always wearing a red jacket." So that's why we don't do it today. I don't think we have this perception that we can negotiate, but in a B2B format, I think every buyer out there today thinks that they can negotiate. And I think a lot of sellers give them the impression that they can negotiate. And particularly in technology, we taught everybody in the world not to buy until the last couple of days of the quarter, because we'll sell a loved one, to get a deal done at the end of the quarter, because that's what technology companies do.
Yep, absolutely right. Absolutely right. I think another reason why you see prices listed at retail, and we don't do that in B2B, although we often see prices on our web pages,
Yeah.
is that in retail, we pretty much know the value of a pair of Levi's. So we don't really have to have someone explain that to us. In a lot of B2B sales, the buyers don't know the value of our product yet. And so it really takes a lot of work on our side to make sure that we've communicated that.
Actually, you know what? That's a great explanation. That makes a lot of sense to me. There isn't, and in most retail outlets, the person interacting with you is not interested in that value conversation. They're just getting his sizes and being friendly.
Yep. Doing the transaction. All
Yeah.
right. Mark, thank you so much for your time today. If anybody wants to contact you, how can they do that?
Just through LinkedIn, Mark. So first of all, thank you very much. What a pleasure being on your podcast. Really enjoyed this just great conversation. And if anybody wants to get in touch, it's Mark Cox on LinkedIn, and the company name is in the funnel, but it's MARK and then COX. What a pleasure being on your show. This was awesome.
Oh, thanks. It's been great. And we'll have your LinkedIn link in the show notes.
Oh, thank you.
If anybody
very
wants to
much,
grab
Mark.
that. Excellent. Episode 149 is all done. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this, would you please leave us a rating and a review? And if you have any questions or comments about the podcast or pricing in general, feel free to email me, mark@impactpricing.com. Now, go make an impact.